Ladies and guys who grew up super religious and believe that sex is bad. Andy here, author of the best Tinder guide on the internet and world-class joke teller. Let me demonstrate. A guy goes to a fancy dress party, completely naked, not wearing a damn thing, head to toe in his birthday suit. And he's got a little bowl of custard, and his dick is rock hard in the bowl of custard. He presses the buzzer, the doorbell. They open up and they say, "Bro, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you naked? Why is your penis in that bowl of custard?" And he goes, "I came as outrage." And they say, "You came as outrage? What the hell are you talking about?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'm fucking disgusted." Let's fucking go, ladies and gentlemen. I did a video recently where I asked you guys for comments. And any questions that would come up, I said I would tackle them. Here is a beautiful one, okay? I get this from time to time, especially from those of you who have grown up a little bit more religious. So love this guy's question. Really, really, really appreciate this guy's sharing. I will read out, blast through it, and we will react to it. And I'll give you guys some advice. So, hey Andy, you asked for comments, and I've been a reader/viewer of yours for a while, so I thought, what the hell? I am struggling with a porn addiction, and I have been since I was young, and I really want to break out of this. So the first thing I would say, before I even get started with this question, rewrite the story that you are telling yourself. You are telling yourself the story of how you're struggling with this porn addiction. I just want to break out of this. You're telling this big David versus Goliath battle, and you basically have to go to war with your porn addiction here. I've talked about this so many times. When you have an addiction to something, I myself had, you could say I still have, a very strong porn addiction. I was an alcoholic. I was addicted to YouTube. At this point, I think I'm 40 days without watching YouTube, so we'll see how that goes. That's going amazing. I'm going to go a full year. I had issues with video games. I gave up video games for a year to prove to myself that I could. I'm at this point 2 years sober. I haven't had a drink in 2 years, and I can say a sentence coherently. So I'm someone that's had a lot of addictions, right? And what worked for me and what works for most people in addiction is if you don't tell this big David versus Goliath story of how you have to go to war with your addiction. Instead, what's much easier and much more approachable as a thing to overcome is if you tell yourself you're just going to practice being a little better with it. And so what you do is you go as long as you possibly can without looking at porn. Almost like a fun little game, like you're trying to get a high score. So you'll go a couple of days, and maybe all you can do is 2 days without porn. Brilliant. 2 days without porn, great. Do that a couple of times until you're really good at just going 2 days without porn, and then you watch porn, then another 2 days, and then you watch porn. And don't beat yourself up when you do watch porn. Then try and do 3 days in a row. And when you can do that a few times, and you feel pretty confident at going 3 days without porn, then aim for 4, then 5. And at some point, you'll get a little bit of cockiness about you. You go, you know what? 5 is easy. Why am I looking at porn every 5 days? Why don't I just go like 2 weeks without it? And you'll try, maybe you stumble, maybe you make it, maybe you don't, it doesn't matter. But you get these streaks that are longer and longer. What you're showing yourself there, you're building this mountain or this case of evidence for yourself that you can live without porn. That you can have porn in your life that is a much healthier way. And maybe you want to eventually not have porn, but you're moving towards that. You're showing yourself, okay, I'm not a slave to this thing. I get to choose when I look at porn. Yes, right now I'm doing it every 5 days or every 7 days or every 2 weeks, and I would like to eventually do it less than that, but I'm in control. I'm choosing to do it every 2 weeks now. It's not in control of me. That in itself is such a huge mindset shift. And you're also building a case or a mountain of evidence that you can go longer and longer without this thing. And so there's almost like a light at the end of the tunnel. You're saying, okay, there was a time where I could only go 1 or 2 days without it. Now I can do like 2 weeks. And again, this might take you a little bit of time to build up to that, but now I can go 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks I'll look at porn, and I'm pretty good at that. Sometimes I'll fail, sometimes I won't, but I'm pretty good at that every 2 weeks. Yep. So now I've proven to myself that every 2 weeks, or I can go 2 weeks without porn. Fuck, it wouldn't be that hard to prove to myself that I can go 3 weeks. And you're just like inching forwards a little bit. It's like progressive overload in the gym. You don't go to the gym and say, hey, let me deadlift 300 kilograms today. You'll fucking die. And I'm not saying that you can't give up a porn addiction by going cold turkey. You can. But you are someone that, in your own words, you have had this since you were young. And in your own words, you have struggled with it. And We can talk about the word struggle. I wouldn't use the word struggle. Look at every problem or every struggle as an opportunity. That comes from Grant Cardone. It's one of his favorite quotes. Don't see problems or don't see struggles. Don't phrase it as a struggle. Phrase it as a room for an opportunity for growth, something to improve. I'm going to get better at this thing. And so that mindset of essentially giving yourself permission to suck and saying, I'll look at porn, but I just want to look at it less and less and less over time. I want to get better at having healthier outlets. That's a much more approachable thing, isn't it? It's so much less weighing on the mind and the conscience and the soul and the... It requires less willpower and motivation if you just say, I'll just get better at this porn thing. Rather than, I'm struggling with a porn addiction. I really want to break out of this. Because what you're doing there is you're doing all or nothing thinking. You're making it binary. If you ever look at porn, you'll say, I'm a failure. I looked at porn. The fuck is wrong with me? How do I ever fix this? I'll never fix this. But if instead your mindset is, let me get better with porn. Let me go longer and longer without porn. Now you're a success. Every single time you go a little bit further, that's a success. You're literally showing yourself that you're good at something. Right now, you would say, in your own words, you've kind of already said it, that you're shit at not looking at porn. You're shit when it comes to porn. You're terrible at it. You have no control. It's not your, it's out of your control. The porn controls you. You're a slave to it, all of that kind of stuff. But what you're showing yourself, if you go a little bit further each time and just build up those streaks of longer and longer, times between looking at porn, you're showing yourself, no, I'm in control. I'm a success. I know what I'm doing. I'm going to get there eventually, even if it takes me a long time. It took me, Andy, quite a few times to get to a point where I could go, I think I went 9 months without porn, 7 months, something crazy like that. And it's something I'm still working on. And I don't sit there and beat myself up and say, oh my God, I looked at porn again. I'm a fucking loser. I go, no, dude, I had a 7-month streak. Holy shit. I can't wait for the next 7-month streak. Let's fucking go, baby. Let's get better at this thing. Over time, I'm learning, I'm growing. I'm learning new techniques, new ways of thinking, new philosophies, things that will help me, more healthy outlets for so I don't need to self-medicate, so I can bring myself that happiness and that peace, and I don't need to get it from porn. So over time, just practice being better. All right, let's continue. He says, it's a tremendous mental block. See, do you see what I mean? It's like you're setting up hurdles. We do this a lot where we set up a hurdle. We say, it's a tremendous mental block that I have towards working on a dating life. This porn thing is a mental block. Yeah, it is if you say it's a mental block. If you call it a mental block, yeah, it will be. But if you instead say, oh, there's this thing I'm going to get better at. That's not a mental block. It's just something you're improving, something you're going to get better at. And you can absolutely have a dating life with a porn addiction. I did for 7 years. It's only really recently, the last year, that I've properly started tackling porn and, gone these long streaks of 7 months without porn. Before that, God, I was looking at porn every day. Now, did it affect my dating life? Absolutely, tremendously. I've talked about that. But it wasn't a mental block. It's a mental block if you call it that. That's like saying, oh, I can't start a business because I have no skills. That's a mental block. Or it's like saying, and this is going to be relevant to this guy who wrote this question. He's going to know what I'm talking about. It's like saying, I can't sign up for coaching because I don't have a lot of money right now. It's like, that's a mental fucking block. Go and find the money. Reach out to me and say, Andy, will you work for me for less? The hint, yes. I usually do. There are fucking ways to overcome this stuff. And we do this where we set a mental block in our own way. We go, I'm too short so women wouldn't like us. Sorry, women wouldn't like me. I'm not a social person, so I can't make friends. Or I'm not a sporty person. I don't have a lot of muscles, so I can't go to the gym. It's like you're just setting up a roadblock for yourself that doesn't have to exist. It's a limiting belief. You've just invented it. It's a fucking bullshit story that you just pulled out of your asshole and you tell yourself that it's true. Oh, I have a porn addiction, so therefore I can't have a dating life. What the fuck are you talking about? What are you, fucking high? That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, and I understand why you would think that, but it is not it's not a barrier to you having a dating life. You've just told yourself the story that it is. If you instead view it as, this is something I'm improving, this is something I'm getting better at, this is something I'm, working on letting go of, it's a self-improvement project, if anything. I'm getting rid of my addictions. How cool is that? That's fucking exciting. You can bring that to the dating market even. You could even say to women, hey, one thing I'm working on right now is letting go of some addictions. I've had a porn addiction, something I'm really passionate about, moving away from. Yeah, I've learned a lot about myself and my mental state of being. I've actually had to become a better person in order to move away from porn. It's fucking good. If anything, I'm weirdly grateful for the porn because it's teaching me to understand myself and my urges and my masculinity and my sexuality. Man, it's really cool. It's great. Yeah, I can't wait till I'm, get these streaks up and running. Right now, I can go about 3 days without it. Yeah, I'm waiting for the day when I can go like 7 days. Man, that'll be so exciting. I can't wait to get there. Like, you can bring that to the dating market, to your dating life. God. So I'll go on to say, or I'll keep reading. He says, I was raised in a hyper-religious environment, which I have since parted ways with, and I grew up believing that sex in general, and porn especially, were morally disgusting things, and therefore I was disgusting as well. Yeah, this is I just did a podcast about, it's on my Spotify channel, you can go and listen to it. It's about how a lot of like religious people, and it's not just religious people, it's a lot of like experts and, a lot of people in general, will have a doctrine or a thing that they say you should do. You must do this. And if you don't do this, you're a bad person. And you say, why am I a bad person? They just say, because I said so. There's no logic or reason or philosophy or integrity behind it. It's just kind of, because we said this thing is bad, it is bad. I sometimes will get comments on my YouTube channel. You guys don't see them because I delete them because they're goofy, where they're like, this is all bad, you guys are all going to hell for having sex, like, back in my day we just didn't have sex ever and our lives were so fucking great because sex was just not part of it and sex is bad and you should try not ever having sex, it's cool. They actually don't say that it's great and they don't say it's cool, they just say you shouldn't do it. But I'll get these comments sometimes and it's like, why though? Like, why is sex bad? Can you give me a reason why sex is bad? Well, because the Bible says so. Yeah, but like from your own point of view, come on, like you're a human being, you're an adult. Tell me why you think it's bad, not because the book said so. Like, why is it bad? There's never any reason there. There's never any logic. So, yeah, that can happen sometimes in religion. And I'm not against religion. I've made that very clear in the past. But I think one of the things that a lot of religions do is they lock down sexuality. And that's a very intentional thing because then you'll devote your life to God or the church or whatever it is. But yeah, a lot of religions have that in common where sex is like, they're very puritanical. Sex is bad, particularly if you have sex with more than one person, particularly porn and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I understand growing up like that, man. So he goes on to say, despite my efforts to change my mindset, I think those feelings about myself have lingered, and porn has become both a source of and a coping mechanism for those mental and emotional pains. And yeah, this can happen, right? This is, sort of the dark side of parts of religion is that if you, and it happens with government too, it happens anytime you say that something is like off limits or taboo. It happens with drugs. It happened during Prohibition in the United States, which if you're not familiar was when the government said, oh, alcohol is bad, let's just ban it. People don't stop drinking alcohol because you made it illegal. In religion, people don't stop having sex because you said that it's disgusting. They will keep doing it and they will hate themselves for it, or they will feel guilty, or they will feel ashamed, or they will have to hide it, or they don't act in line with their own integrity with those things. And so all you really do a lot of the time is just cause a lot of pain and suffering when you just ban something outright or say that this is bad or this is illegal or this is morally reprehensible. Now, if you had reason behind it, if you said, hey, we think it's morally reprehensible or disgusting for these reasons, here's why, and you sort of explained it all, then maybe the person would look into it and go, okay, those reasons sound logical to me. I actually agree with those reasons. Yeah, I'm on board. But I think when you just outright ban something and say, this thing is disgusting, all you do is just drive people to do it underground and to feel even more shame and to not be able to reach out and say, hey, I feel this shame, or, I want to work through this thing, or even something with like a porn addiction. You might say, I want to get to a point where I don't look at porn. Can you please help me? But you can't come to them for help because they've told you it's morally reprehensible and disgusting. So yeah, and it's just a side tangent. I know that doesn't necessarily help you in this moment, so I'll give you a little bit of help in a second, but so he goes on to say, I know your podcast has covered porn addiction in the past, blah, blah, blah. I would like to see the subject tackled from a more emotional perspective. So yeah, I've talked about porn addiction and different addiction, and I've given tons of advice on that. So just search my YouTube channel for porn and listen to some of the videos I've talked about on that. Search for addiction as well. I've just talked about addictions in general. So he says, how do I regulate my negative emotions in a more healthy way? Move past inner feelings of worthlessness and filthiness and integrate sexuality into my life in a more healthy and positive way that builds myself up. Okay, beautiful. So that last thing you wrote is the answer. The first two things you wrote, I would flip those. So instead of saying, how do I regulate my negative emotions in a more healthy way? I would flip that and say, how do I build up a more positive emotional headspace? How do I feel lots of love and gratitude towards other people? How do I like myself? How do I feel peace and harmony with the rest of the world, myself? I don't know if you're still religious or if you still believe in God or where you're at with that. But if you do, how do I connect with God? Or if you don't believe in God, how do I connect with the universe, the world around me? How do I just connect with the shit that's outside when I look outside? Or the people around me? Like, how do I just connect with stuff external from myself? So phrase that in a more positive way. The second thing you say is same thing again. So how do I move past inner feelings of worthlessness and filthiness? Bro, why are we talking about worthlessness and filthiness? We're here for you to feel good. We're here for you to win, not for you to like not feel something. Do you get what I mean? So a better way of phrasing that is a lot of the time people will come to me and say, hey, I'm really anxious. How do I not feel anxious? And I'm like, well, what are you going to feel instead? And they go, fuck, I've never thought of that. What am I going to feel? Okay, well, I guess I'd like to feel peace and happiness. Okay, cool. Then your question is, how do I feel peace and happiness? Not how do I stop feeling something? Because what are you left with? You have to replace something with something else. If I say to you, don't go to the shops today, then you go, okay, but what am I going to do instead? If I say to you, don't give me a hug, then you go, okay, but what do I do instead? Can I high five you? Can I just talk to you? Like, you need to know what you're replacing it with, right? And so with these sentences or these ways of phrasing things, flip them to what you want. Don't tell yourself or don't ask yourself or don't ask me how to stop doing the thing you don't want to do. Instead, say the thing you do want to do. So like with the porn example I said, instead of saying, how do I stop looking at porn? You say, how do I go 3 days where I do other stuff? And then I look at porn. And then how do I make it 4 days and then 5 days? How do I build up a streak? That's a more positive thing. That's something we can actually take action on and implement. But I don't know how to stop you feeling worthlessness and filthiness unless we replace it with something else. Like, I can't stop you doing something and then you just sit there and do nothing. Your mind will start to wander and you'll go back to these thoughts. So the way that you do is you meet these thoughts with understanding and you work through them and you process them. You meet them with love. You understand why you felt this way. And then you replace it with something greater or something happier or something that brings you up, and makes you feel a better kind of way or a healthier kind of way. So some book recommendations for you, brother. And for anyone listening who's in the same position, I have an entire article on book recommendations that I will leave. I'll leave a link to it in the description below. I would start with probably Loving What Is by Byron Katie. I would start with this book. I would really, really, really start with this book. It's a book on like stoicism. It's a book on like meeting your negative thoughts with understanding. And then below that, I would read I Need Your Love, Is That True? Also by Byron Katie. In this book, she talks about how we're always trying to get, or a lot of the time we're trying to get something from other people. And then in this case, as you're reading the book, I want you to think, instead of other people, think about porn. So like, what am I trying to get from porn? And this book is a really good book on how to just give yourself those things. Whatever it is that you feel you're missing that porn is giving you, or maybe you're trying to get it from casual sex or from other people, this book is the book on how to get that shit from yourself so that you don't feel like you need to get it from other people. On top of that, another book that you can read is You Can't Afford the Luxury of a Negative Thought. But I would start with those 3 books, right? There's other books on my recommended book list that will all sort of help with porn addiction and with you're not even talking about porn addiction here. You're really talking about like happiness and stuff like that. So I would start with those books more than anything else. Yeah, so in terms of like integrating sexuality in your life, so this is a great question. Look at the last thing you wrote. You phrased it positively. Isn't that fucking beautiful? I would like to integrate sexuality into my life in a more healthy and positive way that builds myself up and others. Yes, we can take action on that. But if you had written, I need to stop using other people and myself during sex, it's like, well, fuck, how do we do that? What do we replace it with? Like that's not something we can take action on. The action I give you can't be stop using other people or stop using porn. You're like, how do I stop? Just stop. Like, I can't give you action on that, can I? Everything I could possibly give you would be for you to hopefully not lose. Losing in this case being using someone else or looking at porn or something like that. If we were to just tackle the negative side of things of like, how do I stop feeling worthless? How do I regulate my negative emotions? If we were to operate if we were to answer those questions, or if we were to try and tackle that, the best we could hope for is that every day you wake up and you just don't lose that day. The same thing as the way you've been phrasing this porn addiction. You're saying, I really want to break out of this porn addiction. I'm struggling with it. It's a tremendous mental block. All I can give you there, if you phrase it like that, is like, okay, every day let's just wake up and try not to lose. And the second you look at porn, we say, oh, you lost today. Sorry, you lost. Fuck, you fucked it up. You failed. You suck. You lose. I'm not here to help you not lose. I will never be here to help you guys not lose. I will be here to help you win. And so I love the phrasing of this last question, brother. This is perfect. I want to integrate sexuality in my life in a more healthy and positive way that builds myself and others up. Yes, that's winning. That would be a victory. If you even do 1% of that, wow, massive victory. If you just keep working on that and improve 0.1% every day or every week, God damn, what an amazing life. So I would start asking the question. I know you've asked me the question and I will answer it in a second. Start asking yourself and other people, how can I have sexuality in my life in a really healthy and happy way? I would get out a big piece of paper and I would write down a list of like 50 ways that sexuality can be healthy and happy and beautiful in my life. Or 50 things I'm grateful for when it comes to sex. Or 50 ways I can connect to another human being during sex. 50 ways to be present during sex. If you're still, like I said, religious or you still believe in God, 50 ways I can connect to God during sex. Here's the way I always say this to like deeply religious people. Part of most religions is the concept that God is all-knowable, infallible, omniscient, omnipresent, and basically perfect. That's kind of the concept of most gods in most religions. And that everything God created is beautiful. Right? God knows his shit. God is top dog. God knows what's up. God does a good job. That's kind of the basis of most religions, right? God also invented sex. Every fucking animal on the planet, including us, especially us, has sex. Why would God make something that he would then say, oh, don't do that thing. It's disgusting. It's fucked up. It's moral. It's evil. That isn't my experience. And the time when I've connected the most to other people, the time that I've connected the most to myself, probably more than any other, has been during sex. If I'm present, if I take away all these stories of like, this is bad, this is wrong, I shouldn't do this, like I'm using people, they're using me, this is awful. If I just remove all of that and actually pay attention to what's going on inside my body, inside her body, inside us together, if I actually just pay attention to that stuff, all I see is beauty there. All I see is like two people making each other feel amazing, two people going deep within themselves, two people going deep with each other, two people reaching some sort of spiritual nirvana and sexual and emotional and soul-giving, soul-raising, whatever you want to call it, nirvana together. It's just not my experience that's disgusting. It used to be when I told myself stories years ago of I'm a porn addict, I'm a sex addict, it's awful, sex is bad. Yeah, I had the same experiences as you. But what I would do to start moving towards this place of, like you said, more healthy and positivity and building people up when it comes to sex, write some sort of list of the ways that sex is beautiful. Or the way that here's another list you could write, ways you can give value to another human being during sex, ways you can make their life better. I talk about this all the time, right? It's one of my biggest philosophies. Leave people better than you found them. If you're dating women and having sex with women, leave women better than you found them. Find ways to add to their life. Give value as much as you possibly can. Part of that might also be that you might need to build stuff outside of sex. You might need to be more intimate and more honest and more open and more authentic with the people that you date outside of sex. Like you still have sex with them, but I'm saying when you're not in the bedroom with them, connect more. Share this shit with them. God damn it. Imagine you shared all this with a woman. She'd be like, wow, thank you. This is cool. Thank you for sharing this. Say it in, like I said, say it in a positive way. Don't dump it and say, oh my God, I have this porn addiction. I'm so ashamed. It's so awful. That's a big thing to just dump on someone. So say it in a positive way. Hey, I got this porn addiction. I am so excited to overcome it. I'm like, this is what I'm currently working on. Like, it's something that most guys don't open up about. I understand that, like, you probably haven't had a guy tell you about porn addiction, but it's so common. Like, so many of my friends have this shit, and like, I'm, working out of it. I want to be at a place where it's like porn isn't, my slave master. I'm so excited to be free. And so one of the goals that I'm working on right now is building other people up during sex and having this sort of healthy and positive view of sexuality in my life. Like, I'm so excited to go on this journey. It's almost like a spiritual journey for me. Like, would you like to be part of that? I promise you, most women, not all, but most women will say, wow, that sounds beautiful. Yeah, I'd love to be part of that. Sounds cool. I want to have a more healthy view of sex myself. Because guess what? A lot of women have a lot of shame and guilt and pressure and stories that they tell themselves about sex as well. Like, I'm a slut if I have too much sex. I can't be too sexual or that's slutty. I can't have too many kinks or he'll think I'm a whore. Like, all of that kind of stuff. So if you were to open up with a woman, you might find that you build her up in the way that you're looking for, that you can connect in that way that you're looking for. Another exercise that I'll give you, because I'm getting the sense, and this would be much easier if we were doing coaching. I understand that you said that you don't have a whole lot of money. Maybe you want to hit me up for one of those 30-minute coaching calls. But if we were doing coaching, we'd go balls deep on this. But I'll do my best. It's a little difficult if we're not doing back and forwards. But I'm getting the sense that maybe you don't like yourself very much. Because you said in the past therefore I was disgusting as well in the past, right? So if you do feel like you're not super kind to yourself, or you feel a little bit disgusting, you have some of this shame and stuff, do some of the exercises that I give all my coaching clients and that I've talked about in videos every single day. And you'll have to start with this. Just do this once and see how it goes. Look in the mirror, look into your own eyes just like this, and say, I love you to yourself in the mirror. See what happens. A lot of people, when I give them this exercise, they struggle with it. It's really difficult. It's really confronting. A lot of stories might come up. This is stupid. This is dumb. This is gay. Why is he making me do this? What the fuck is this? A lot of stuff might come up. Or I don't deserve to be loved, or I can't say that to myself. That's weird. Like, a lot of that stuff might come up. But I promise, if you just persist and push through it, even if it takes 30 minutes. I've had some guys that stand in front of the mirror for like 20 minutes and they can't do it. They leave, they come back, they try again for like half a day until finally they can do it. And they're like, why was this so hard? But I would start with that, mate. If you have these feelings of like, I'm not good enough, or I'm filthy, or I'm disgusting, which you probably do. If your religion has been putting that in your head, and you are someone that has sexual urges and a porn, addiction, yeah, you probably think you're disgusting. So work on that self-love. I would, on top of that, write a list of 50 things about yourself that are likable. And again, if you were in my coaching program, I could get you to just post it in the group. But here's what I would suggest. Post it. So either post it on my forums, and obviously my forums are free. Either post it on my forums, like the list of 50 things about yourself that are likable, or you could post it as a YouTube comment if you want. Maybe post it on my latest video, whatever the latest video is, so that I definitely see it. I can't guarantee that I will see it if you post it on an older video. I don't always go back and check. But share it with other people, basically. This is what I'm trying to say. Share it with my forums, or share it with me, or share it with someone, right? But write this list of 50 things about yourself that are likable. And that might be really difficult. You might only be able to get 10 or 20. I've had some guys that go, I can't do more than 5. And I'm like, fuck off. Do 5 more. Come on, you can do 5 more. Here's 3 for you. Go away and write 2 more. Here's 3 things I think are likable about you. Go write 2 more. And they'll do that and they'll come back. Okay, I got 10. I don't think I can do any more. And I'm like, come on, fuck off. Go write more. They'll keep coming back. I had one guy that took probably like 3 weeks to write his list of 50 things. And he just kept coming back every week and going, okay, here's 10 more. Here's 5 more. Okay, I've done a couple more. And we got him to 50. And he looked at that list and he was like, holy shit. I thought I was like a loser virgin. Like, I didn't think I was likable. I didn't think anyone would like me. And I was like, brother, there's 50 things about you that are likable. And mate, we could sit here for another year and write another 1,000 things. You just haven't ever checked. And so I would give you the same advice, man. Go inside yourself and check and say, what is likable about me? You can do this in front of the mirror or do this on a big piece of paper, but write it down and share it with other people. If you still really struggle, ask some of your friends and family, hey, can you guys give me 1 or 2 things that are likable about me? Like, what's likable about me? What would someone like about me? What could possibly be likable about me? Please give them to me. And write this list of 50 things. That will show you that you have some value, that you're not morally disgusting, that God doesn't hate you, or the universe doesn't think you're wrong, or, a mistake or something. It's the other fun thing I love to hit really religious people with, when they're like, having sex is disgusting. Gay people are an abomination. Having sex outside of marriage is, God gets sad and kills a kitten when you do that. And it's like, but isn't the whole point of religion that God doesn't make mistakes? And God made me this way. So you're saying that God fucked up. You're saying that God's not, whoa, bro. that's doesn't sound like you're going to get into hell. I don't say that, but like, it doesn't sound very nice for you to be saying that God makes mistakes. I don't agree with that. That just isn't my experience. My experience is that the universe or God or whatever you want to call it doesn't really make mistakes. Shit just happens the way it's going to happen. And we're the ones that come and attach a story to that. There's a really good quote. I can't remember who it's by, but there is no good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Another way of phrasing that is something happens, an event happens, and then one person will look at that event and say, oh, that's bad, that's bad. Another person will look at that same event and say, no, it's good. What do you mean it's bad? It's good. So there is no objective fucking opinion on that, right? It's either good or bad depending on what you decide to say as a story for it. So yeah, write a big list of things about yourself that are likable. Do the I love you exercise in the mirror. Read some of the book recommendations that I gave. I'll leave a link in the description to those. If you want to hit me up for coaching, that's there. But the way that you're going to sort of move towards these beautiful things that it sounds like you want, like building this positive space with women and building them up and building yourself up, just aim for that and go for that. I obviously have a ton of articles on how to give value to other people. I would probably recommend you go and read my Tinder guide. So especially the fifth part. So the fifth part of my Tinder guide, where I talk about seeing women again, right? Basically talk about some like strategies and not strategies. God, I hate that word. I did not mean to say the word strategies. Some things that you can do to build yourself up to be a better person so that other people will want to stick around you. That's the best way that I can phrase it, right? So go onto my website, just search for the Tinder guide and then go to the fifth part of it. And essentially everything in here is how to make yourself a better person, right? Like I have so many different bits of advice in here, like not being needy, being more open, all that kind of stuff. Being a more calm, open person, how to be better at sex, being more honest. That's obviously a huge part of my philosophy with you guys. Just a lot of stuff. So I would go through and read that. And that's probably going to help you start moving more in this direction of how to essentially build something with the women that you start sleeping with. On top of that, I would start with the relationship. I'm going to pull it up, but the relationship podcast that I've done. And I've got a whole playlist of these. So I will link to it in the description, but you can just go on my website on here, click playlists, and then it's the relationship one. Where's that? There we go, relationships. I've done about 15 or so of these. I've got more coming out. Let me move that over there. So I've got a bunch of different videos on like building stuff with women. And if you're a woman, all this stuff applies as well when you're building something with whoever you're building it with. But I would go through these, even though I know what you're saying is that you didn't say it. I don't think you said it, did you? Okay, I was trying to see if you said that you wanted something more serious or something casual. You haven't said, but it doesn't matter what you want. If you want something casual or you want something serious or you want whatever the hell, you want marriage and kids or you want just friends with benefits, whatever it is that you want, I would go through this list of all these podcasts I've done on relationships because I talk about how to build something, especially this one, like the cheat code to quickly building a connection. I talked about friendships and relationships and casual dating as well. How to build loyalty, how to give value to other people. I really would go through all these videos. I talk about growth mindset. I would go through all the 15 or so videos in there. It might be more by the time you watch this. And I would just start having a crack at like building up some of those relationship skills. Even if it's something even if you just want a casual relationship, the thing you've written here about building others up and building yourself up. Yeah, do all the exercises I just gave you, but go through all those relationship videos as well. Like I talk a lot about building other people up. And I think what you're going to find more than anything else is when you start giving value to the women in your life, the women that you're sleeping with and that you're dating, when you can see that you have a very positive effect on them and you can find this very beautiful space during sex to connect with them and you realize that they're happy that you're having sex with them and you're happy that you're having sex with them, you look at that and you go, how could this ever be morally wrong? How could this ever be reprehensible? How could this ever be disgusting? What a strong word. Disgusting. It's one of the strongest words in the English language. Like, how could this beautiful act, this sensual, spiritual, value-giving act where I give value to her, she gives value to me, and we come together and we're both better off for having done it. How could that ever be disgusting? Man, the person who's saying that just mustn't understand what sex is, or they must be having some sort of disgusting sex or just no sex at all. But there's different forms of it. And man, I'm going to participate in this very spiritual, zen, beautiful type of sex. So go seeking that. Don't look the other direction of the morally reprehensible, disgusting sex. No, point in the direction of the beautiful, sensual, spiritual, amazing sex that you're wanting to have. If you want a really good place to start Googling tantric sex or read the Kama Sutra. Read the Kama Sutra, actually. It's a really long book, so try and find, and when I say long, it's like a big, long religious book about how to connect with the opposite gender and, how to have sex and all that kind of stuff. It's very spiritual book about having the kind of sex that it sounds like you want. Maybe find a revised, like a condensed version of the Kama Sutra, or just look up some tantric sex books. I think tantric sex might be your answer here. Another thing you could do is find some very sex positive, like sex clubs. Try and find the ones that are more spiritual rather than the ones where people just go to fuck each other. You're trying to go places where people are very spiritual and they have an almost very deep appreciation of sex and the spirituality of sex. And it's almost like they don't take it for granted. They respect it. So try and find the people that respect sex. Again, not every sex club is like that. So I'm not telling you to just go to a random sex club, by the way. But more than anything, I would start reading some tantric, guides and some tantric books and start learning all the ways that a man and a woman, or a woman and a woman, or a man and a man, or a man and a woman and a man and all the combinations, two people or multiple people can come together and start sharing something. You know what I mean? Like move more in that direction of this really healthy and positive sex that it sounds like you want. The same with your porn addiction. Move more in the direction of like, hey, how do I get better at this? Move in that positive direction. Move towards the light. Stop turning around looking at the darkness and going, oh my God, look at all that darkness behind me. That's essentially what you've been doing with your porn addiction and your childhood and your religious stuff and your background and all of that. You're looking behind you going, oh my God, it's so scary back there. It's so black. Oh my God, it's awful. Like, why are you even looking back? Aren't you walking that way? I don't know about you, but when I'm walking somewhere, I don't constantly look behind me and say, what's behind me? What's behind me? What's behind me? No, I'm looking where I'm fucking going. So pay attention to where you're going. You're moving towards the light, brother. Look at the light. Point in that direction. Go in that direction. Stop looking the other way. We'll wrap up. I got another coaching call in about 20 minutes, so I got to go. But this was fun. I enjoy answering all of your questions. This was a really good question, really good topic. So again, I really respect you opening up. If I didn't say that at the start of the podcast, I really respect you opening up on this shit. There's some like deep shit, by the way. Like a lot of people don't open up about this stuff, like the morality and those feelings of like worthlessness and shame and guilt and disgust. So I really appreciate that. I'll wrap up. As always, go crush those goals.